The lawnmower is probably the most common outdoor power tool in most homes. You count on it each week to quickly mow your lawn so you can get on with your day. But what do you do when you pull the starter rope and the engine won't start? You could take it to a shop, but transporting a lawnmower isn't easy. It could be there for weeks, and shop repair costs can add up fast. Don't worry. Most of the time, a lawnmower that won't start can be easily fixed. Here are 6 of the most common lawnmower problems and an idea of what it'll take to get your mower running again. Restricted carburetor. The carburetor mixes fuel and air together so it can be combusted in the cylinder. The fuel enters the carburetor and is stored in the carburetor bowl. The amount of fuel in the bowl is determined by the float and metering needle. The carburetor has many tiny passages inside of it. Any one of these passages can be blocked, causing a restriction and ultimately leading to your lawnmower not starting. There are a number of different reasons your carburetor can become plugged. Dirt can get into the carburetor from both the air filter or the fuel filter. If old fuel is left sitting in the carburetor, it can lead to varnish, corrosion, or rust. In the last decade or so, a major problem is fuel with ethanol. The ethanol will attract water out of the air. This water will blend with the ethanol and form an acid. The acid will quickly corrode and block all those tiny passages within the carburetor. Fixing a plugged carburetor is a pretty easy repair to do. The first step is to remove the carburetor from the engine. There's a couple of different ways you can clean your carburetor. The traditional way would be to use carburetor cleaner. My preferred method of cleaning carburetors is to use a small ultrasonic cleaner. The ultrasonic cleaner simply uses water, and in this case dishwashing detergent, to clean the carburetor. When you turn it on, it pulses very rapidly, which breaks the dirt up and pulls it out of the carburetor. You can pick these up for under $100 at many discount tool stores. Once it's been cleaned, I just reinstall the carburetor. The air filter. The air filter filters any debris out of the air before it enters the engine. A plugged air filter will restrict the flow of air into the engine. This will make the mower hard to start or prevent it from starting at all. A damaged air filter will let some of the debris pass the filter and into the carburetor. Common styles of air filters are paper, felt, or foam. Foam and felt filters can be cleaned. Foam can be washed out with dish soap and water and then re-oiled and reused. A felt filter can be carefully blown out with compressed air. Paper filters must be replaced. You should inspect your air filter often and replace it at least once per year. A cleanable filter should be cleaned several times per year. Replacing your air filter is really very simple. I'll remove the air filter cover, remove the air filter, and install the new one. I'll replace the cover and tighten the screw. Fuel filter. The fuel filter filters debris out of the fuel, so again it doesn't plug the tiny passages in the carburetor. There are 2 common types of fuel filters used on lawnmowers: in-tank filters and in-line filters. Regardless of which type of filter you have, it should be replaced at least once per year. Replacing your fuel filter doesn't take long to do. First, you'll need to drain any fuel from the fuel tank. Now remove the fuel line from the tank. And there's the fuel filter. And I'll install the new filter. To replace an inline filter, again you first drain the fuel from the tank, then remove the clamps from either side of the filter, remove the fuel line from the filter, install the new filter, and replace the clamps. Spark plug. The spark plug creates a timed spark inside the cylinder to ignite the air-fuel mixture. Spark plugs are not all the same, and it's important to use the correct one for your engine. The dimensions of the spark plug are important, the heat range, and the gap between the strap and the electrode. There are several common spark plug problems. The spark plug can just simply wear out. The electrode or strap can be damaged. The spark plug can become coated in tar or carbon, which will prevent a consistent spark. If the gap isn't correct, you may get inconsistent spark. The ceramic insulator inside the plug can break. Any of these problems can lead to a lawnmower that's hard to start or won't start at all. You can test a spark plug by removing it from the cylinder, reinstalling it to the spark plug wire, and then holding it to an engine ground as somebody else pulls the starter rope. If you see a spark, the spark plug is likely good. Also, at the low cost of spark plugs, if you suspect it's bad, often it's easiest to just simply replace it. Replacing your spark plug is simple. Remove the boot. Now use a spark plug wrench to remove the spark plug. Unscrew it from the cylinder To install the new spark plug, first check the gap and adjust as needed. Thread the plug into the cylinder, being careful not to cross-thread the spark plug, and tighten it firmly with a wrench. And last, replace the boot. Broken recoil starter. The recoil starter is used to start the engine on your lawnmower. The way it works is when you pull the starter rope, a couple of pawls extend out from the center of the starter. These pawls engage with the flywheel, which turns the motor over. Once the rope's been pulled out, there's a spring inside that will retract the rope back in. The starter is made up of the housing, the rope and handle, the pulley, the pawls, and the recoil spring, which sits just beneath the pulley. Most symptoms of a broken starter are pretty obvious. If the rope is broken, the handle will be missing, and the rope will be all coiled around the pulley. The spring will typically break as you're pulling the rope, and when this occurs, the rope will come out of the starter, but won't recoil back in. If the starter pawls fail, you'll be able to pull the rope, but there'll be very little, if any, resistance, and you won't hear the engine turning over. The replacement process will vary greatly depending on the mower model, but in any case, it's pretty easy to do. You'll start by removing the starter. Some mower models will require you to remove some shrouds or other housings to access the starter. In the case of this mower, the starter just sits right on top of the engine. To remove it, I remove 3 nuts. To install the new starter, I align it, make sure the pawls engage with the flywheel, and then re-secure it. Bad gas or no fuel. Each time you get ready to mow the lawn, it's a good idea to remove the gas cap and check the gas. Make sure that there's gas in the tank or the mower won't start. It's a good idea to just go ahead and top the tank off before you start mowing the lawn. That way you're sure you'll have enough gas to finish the entire lawn. Smell the gas. Does it smell fresh, like when you fill up your car, or does it smell acidic, or like paint solvent? This could be a sign of old, bad gas. If fuel is sat unused in your lawnmower for an extended period of time, anything longer than 30 days, it will begin to go bad. Bad fuel will harden and damage the fuel lines, cause varnish, corrosion, or rust inside the carburetor, and lead to a lawnmower that won't start. Most fuel nowadays has ethanol in it. Ethanol naturally attracts water. When water blends with ethanol, it creates an acid. The acid will quickly corrode and block all those tiny passages within the carburetor. In extreme cases of ethanol corrosion, you'll find rust in the carburetor bowl and bad corrosion deposits inside the main jet. Another bad fuel issue is water. If you store your lawnmower outside, rainwater can enter the tank. Water's heavier than oil, so all the water will drain to the bottom of the fuel tank. Some of that water may find its way into the carburetor, where it will sit in the bottom of the carburetor bowl. The bottom of the bowl is where the carburetor draws fuel to go into the cylinder. So if there's water sitting in the bowl, the carburetor will be pulling water into the engine instead of gasoline, and of course won't fire. If you suspect you have bad gas in your lawnmower, you'll need to get it out. Take a suitable container and tip the lawnmower to dump the gas into the container. Then refill the tank with fresh gas and the mower should start right up. If you suspect bad fuel, you can take a sample to determine what might be wrong. Water in the fuel will separate to the bottom. Any debris in the fuel will also be obvious. And those are the 6 most common reasons that your lawnmower won't start. And as you can see, these are problems that you can easily fix yourself.